there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday on Astrology Today with Jeff Harman. Hope you all are doing well. Well, May 1st is bringing us something very, very special. Jupiter is leaving the sign of Aries and heading into Taurus in the sidereal zodiac. Not a big deal, a huge deal. It's pretty exciting, depending upon where that's happening in your chart, of course. Jeff's going to go into it, and we're also going to touch on how it affects a country's chart. Very, very, very important. And we're going to touch on a lot of things this Monday. So let's get started, Jeff.
All right. Thanks for that. Yeah, this is a big deal. You know, Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the zodiac. So it's a long time. And Jupiter is such an important planet. In Nadi and in Vedic astrology, there's a strange word that's used in the ancient Sanskrit, Tamil, and Grantha, and that is jiva. And I always said, well, what the heck does that mean, right? Jiva means of life. It means of life force. And Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. You know, astronomers laugh at astrology, but they can't deny the fact that Jupiter is such a huge influence. Many astronomers have said Jupiter could actually become a sun if it were just a little bit bigger. It's massive. But in Vedic astrology, it's stunning. Even the non-believers all go, you know, all right, Jeff, I remember when Jupiter transited this at that time in my life, things got better, right? So what this means in plain English, tropical astrologers are not going to see this because it's different. So it's 24 degrees different between the sidereal and the tropical astrology. But what this means is depending on where the aspects happen in your chart, this is very positive. Like you, Ella, is wonderful for you. Why? Because it's crossing your ascendant and most importantly, going on your Venus. So anybody that has Venus in an Earth trine is going to have Jupiter making its 5th or 9th house aspect on it. Also, if you have it opposite of Taurus, which is in Scorpio, you're going to have a 7th house aspect. And these are all what we call Nadi aspects, which are really powerful. And I can tell you, it's going to affect everybody differently. But one good thing is, and, you know, I've been talking a lot about how the United States has really challenging energies, and we're going to get into that very, very shortly. And it does. And boy, we got some stuff coming up here in May. I would definitely say all this brewing energy is likely to come to fruition. I hope it doesn't, and I hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to talk about many things going on with that huge eclipse we had back in April 8th, at the beginning of April, and how Mars is aspecting it and what Mars is also doing to the United States. But we'll stick with the positive stuff first. The good news is Jupiter throws its trinal aspect on the Earth trines on the United States Saturn. So even though we're in a crisis situation, there might be some truth and also some justice coming out. And of course, we're seeing this right now. And depending on which side of the fence you're on and all this crazy political stuff, there's going to be some justice. And we're going to see that with the Supreme Court. I also think we're going to see this in the lower branches too, that justice might start becoming a little more just, which is sometimes not the case in the legal systems. But we're going to see some very interesting things. Also, I want to talk about, what does it also mean that Jupiter's going into Taurus? Well, Taurus is a fixed sign. It's also ruled by Venus. What does Venus rule? Love, beauty, opulence, and also stability, because Taurus is a fixed sign. So it's really good that Jupiter is entering these signs, because Jupiter always tends to do better in signs ruled by benefics. And in this case, it's Venus. So if any of you have Venus in an Earth trine in a sidereal zodiac, that's really good for you. And if it's also opposite of that in a water trine, that also has an effect too. Not as strong, but very good, depending on where it is. So this is some good news. And again, what I like about this is it's aspecting, and boy, does the United States need it right now, the trine on the United States Saturn. What does Saturn rule? Structure. It also rules the structures of the country and also people who are responsible for that in positions of authority. Now we gave you a little bad or a little good news. Let's get to the potential all side effects here that are not maybe not so side effect. I've been saying for a long, long time in many podcasts, and in this one, I kind of want to do a summary. The United States, I've been telling you, has been going through a Pluto return. What does this mean? Pluto is the planet of destruction. It's like an amplifier. It's like it transforms things from what it was once into something new. That's total transformation. It also means destructive powers. It's like taking metal. It's like taking a coin and melting it down and then recasting it into something else. This is what the United States is going through. And it's interesting because, I mentioned the owners a lot. I think the powers up above, which really control this place, are very well aware of this. And I don't think they are. I know they are. And this is why we see the agendas now in full steam. And we're either going to be a totally transformed country into something we may not be too happy about, a new high-tech version of socialism, or we could be the phoenix rising out of the ashes. Now, what's interesting is we see all the riots and all the tension going on. We see all these people being flown in and being paid money, and they're sitting in hotels waiting for orders, right? And people have actually been told that on planes. They've actually seen them all with their little bags, and they're getting their stipends and their payments, and they're all being told to just wait to see what's their orders. So very dangerous stuff and many agendas going on. But I will say that it fits the astrology. So here's the main thing that I want to get into. Eclipses often don't manifest right away. Well, now we're about to see the potential manifestation of this because Mars, the planet of war, Mars is the planet of ego. It's also the planet of drive and violence, is about to cross the eclipse point. But before it does, right at about the 18th of May, it's going to cross the moon's north node, which is also known as Rahu, or the head of the dragon. Now, what does that mean? Rahu always has been known to create intensity. Some say it's the head of the demon. Other people say in the West, it's more of an amplification or expansion. And it is. It tends to intensify things a little bit like Pluto, but different. It's the movie we're all playing. When Mars crosses the eclipse point, also known as the North Node or Rahu, that brings intensity. Except it's going to oppose the United States Saturn. And it's going to also do that right on about the 24th. But the 25th of May, it's going to cross the eclipse point. So let me be clear. Let me review that. So you got Mars hitting the North Node. Then it's going to go to an opposition of the United States, Saturn. Then it's going to go over the eclipse point. Plain English, we could see some trouble. I hope we don't, but I think the pot right now is simmering and it's about to boil over. Let's hope it doesn't. But I think, and I've been saying this, May is going to be the trigger points. And then we move into this exceedingly powerful background energy. These are called solar arcs. They're also known as primary directions. It's a fancy word that astrologers use for the rotation of the Earth. And even if you're a flat earther, it's still the rotational cycles of the diurnal, nocturnal, daily cycles. So what happens here is we're going to see the United States have, in the first time in 248 years, because we're turning 248 years this July 4th, in September, this Saturn's going right over a conjunction of the United States Mars. And let me be clear, this is very, very powerful. This is an act of war. This is violence, attacks, all these kind of things. Many other astrologers on the internet are saying the same thing. But I want to add something I haven't been hearing people saying, and that is the Pluto return. And most importantly, we are in Sadisate. Now, people might say, what the heck is that? Sadisate, that's what I said when I first heard it. Sadisate is the 7.5-year transit of Saturn, the sign before of the moon of a country or a person, the sign over the moon, and the sign after the moon. Why is it 7.5 years? Because Saturn takes 2.5 years to go through each sign in the sidereal zodiac. So the United States, with all of this crap storm it's had going on, also has Saturn right over the moon. Well, the moon is also the general populace. It's the general mood of the people. Would you say that the general mood of the people is a little suppressed right now, a little angry, a little upset, the border, the inflation, the money? And of course, then we've got the agitators pushing the political tensions on both sides. You've got the media pushing one candidate, smashing another candidate, and it's back and forth. This is the taffy pulling game that goes on. And our minds are somewhere in the middle being twisted one way or the other, right? So it's really an interesting time, and it's a very volatile time, not only in the United States, but in the world. And again, I always say, I love the human race. It's the people that drive me nuts. And I have to say, we're going to see some very intense stuff. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I think this election year is going to be beyond a roller coaster ride. I think it's going to be a really volatile roller coaster ride. So that's kind of the mundane stuff I wanted to talk about. And on the positive note, Jupiter is always God's blessing. And it is. It can make things go a lot better than we expect. And we're going to see a lot of, I think, crazy stuff, and we just need to be strong, and we need to stay in our place. And again, honor this country and its constitution and the great geniusness that was used to draft these incredible documents for humanity, which is the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the other things that this country is really great for. And let's hope, we're going to weather this storm that's coming at us and these high waves that are coming at us, and we're going to come out of it stronger than when we went in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting about Jupiter. It is the glory, right? God's glory.
It is.
But then we have Jupiter is going to go retrograde in October, isn't it?
Yep. Goes retrograde every year. So Saturn and Jupiter go retrograde every year. So does Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto.
Right, but look at the timing of that, right before right deep in the election time. So it gives you the glory, and it also takes it away when it goes retrograde, in a sense. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out.
Well, retrograde planets are interesting because it often retraces and regroups over issues that it created in its direct motion. Because many times the aspects that it made while it was direct, it'll retrograde back and make them again. And then it'll station and come back and reissue that. See, that's another cool attribute. See, for an individual, you take a look at when Jupiter transits into Taurus in a person's birth chart. So all of us are going to have Jupiter in the sidereal zodiac go into Taurus. Well, what does that mean? Well, depending on where Taurus is, the house that it's occupied in your birth chart, you look at the aspects that it makes to the rest of the chart. Some people will have wonderful aspects like you do, Ella. Other people won't. It may be neutral. You see, so all depends on the positions in the chart. It's almost like a tuning fork. And when you hit the right frequency, it resonates with the chart. See, so it's very, very powerful. It's definitely going to reverberate and have a huge effect on all of us in completely unique and very specific ways. I like it for the country because I see all the compensating things that are really challenging for this country. So because Jupiter's aspecting the United States Saturn, which represents power and structures, we may see people in power and authority exercise more justice now, or more, you could say, reality.
Well, wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be a switch, huh? Jupiter is such a wonderful planet. When I do readings, this is the first thing I look at. It was, where's Jupiter? And in Nadi astrology, spelled Naadi or Nadi, we always look at the progressions, because every 12 years, it will move forward from the position it was in the birth chart. And again, I'm going to drop some hints here. I'm working on some extremely powerful stuff where I'm taking many, many years of research in my life, almost 50 now, plus thousands of years of research. And we're putting in some very sophisticated programs that people are going to be able to use. And it's fascinating stuff. And it's really inexpensive to use. So a lot of fun coming up here this summer, and we hope to have the first iterations of this out sometime this summer. So
Yeah,
let's
I think it's going to be awesome. And I feel like everyone should have the opportunity to invite astrology into their lives. So many people know about it and so many people don't. And it's really something that I feel needs to be out there, needs to be pushed. The real astrology, not the sun sign stuff.
There you go. You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, that can help us act as guidance in our lives. And the astrology really can. The ancient astrology truly, truly can. Again, not the sun sign stuff.
That's right.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I love location astrology too. It's interesting because, you just cast an interrogation the other day and we got confirmation today of how accurate it was. It was just amazing. And interrogation astrology is, again, one of my most, I think, astounding look-sees or insights into astrology because I got into interrogation astrology in the 80s. My mother introduced this to me in the mid 70s, and I had never knew that you don't need your birth chart. You can ask a question and you just cast it. And that's called prashna in India. It's also called interrogation or horary astrology in the West. And what a formidable tool. It is so active. And I think any astrologer not using is at a great loss because it gives the ability to help people with even more depth. And, like I just had my brother, call me up all the time with his business. He's got a construction business and he's, hey, should I buy this bulldozer or whatever? And I'll tell him what the chart says, right? And it's amazing how accurate it's been over the years. And every day I use it with clients. It's a much more complex type of astrology to learn. But I think any astrologer not using it is not giving the full benefit of this art to people who want to have answers, and you can ask anything under the sun.
Incredible, incredibly useful. And the chart you were referring to that we looked at earlier was a chart that we asked about a place where I'm about to move to. And we were in that area today and we noticed, wow, the chart is spot on. And I just looked at you and said, how is this possible? I mean, I know it's an interactive consciousness, but when you watch it play out, it's mind-blowing, just mind-blowing.
We're in a matrix.
That situation.
We're in a matrix. I'm telling you, forget Trinity, Neo, and Morpheus. God bless them, because it was a good movie, especially the first one. But I think we are in an interactive conscious matrix of angelic forces that interact with us through the portals called planets. And, astronomers laugh at this because, well, it's gravity and masses and gases and all this stuff. Okay, great. But why has the human race been enamored by it? And again, I was skeptical of it when I first got introduced. I said, come on, this stuff doesn't work. I've heard all the rumors about the gravity and all the stuff, And I have to say, it is truly a science. A lot of astrologers say it isn't. It is, especially when you look at interrogation astrology. It is the science of geometry, mathematics, and blending of various different energies, no different than physics and chemists and electronics. I know because I used to teach a physics class and electronics class, and I have great respect for the hard sciences. But I'm going to tell you, ancient astrology and Vedic astrology and Nadi astrology, it is a hard science. And it is stunning how amazing it is. And again, I'm promoting a little bit here. We are coming out with some AI-derived stuff that is going to be so stunning and interactive. And it's because we're able to take this massive amount of ancient knowledge and put it into very high-speed computer processing and allow people to get answers that are just going to be stunning. So it's really exciting to be able to do that because I notice I have to have at least 2 cups of coffee before I'm shined up. So it's pretty wild what it can do. And it's a lot of mental attention to do astrology. And it's very challenging. I have to say, it's very challenging. And I take it very seriously because these are people's lives. I don't like to be flippant and casual. And, I want to be on my game. When I do a reading, I really take it seriously because I don't want to tell people stuff that's erroneous and not accurate. And it's very...
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look at back in the day, we call it ancient astrology. Look who was using the astrology, the kings, right? The queens, the pharaohs. They knew what it was. They truly, truly knew what it was. Also, they wore all the gemstones. They knew that they understood the power, the energy.
Right.
They just understood it. And then we lost that somewhere along the way.
We did. We lost it when the age of reason came in. You know, it's interesting because this whole age of reason in science, it kind of fell off the beam. And yet the secret societies, including our forefathers, Benjamin Franklin used to say nobody would ever commence a serious act without consulting first electional astrology at the time to commence it. Proof of that is our founding forefathers actually planted many of the documents as well as the cornerstone of this capital at a good astrological time. Let's hope they did a good time, because I'll tell you what, the foundations are being shaken right now with the Pluto return, Sadi Sate, and all these progressions we've been speaking about. You know, one of the things I love about this country is the people, because people love this country because they have freedom. And there's no other country like it in the world that gives you this sense of entrepreneurialism and freedom. You can do anything you want. And we can't let that be taken away. This country is definitely the greatest country ever that we know of in modern history, at least. And one of the coolest things is you can practice astrology. You know, if you're in some communist country, you can't. They'll arrest you, unless, of course, you're serving the emperor or the person who's the leader. So, yeah, this has been used throughout history, astrology. And I find some of the best astrology was the court astrologers, particularly because you didn't have, when you're talking pre, 1600, most people didn't have the skills to write. Literacy was a big deal, and writing was even a bigger deal. A lot of people could read, but many people couldn't write. And when you look at the ancient kings and queens who literally, and I know I have many of these documents of wonderful translations, you had to have a team of people that would write. I mean, you're literally taking a quill pen. Prior to the 1500s, you didn't have, printing presses. So everything was written on vellum. And just to have an environment to do that and concretize thought, and especially astrology as complex as it was stunning. And basically, a lot of this stuff from probably about 300 BC is what we have forward was stunning. The knowledge and the ability of mathematics was really stunning. Very sophisticated stuff. Much more so than the modern astrology that was rebrewed in the 60s and 70s. All the sun sign crap, Right.
Well, I personally would love for everyone to bring astrology into their lives. Really, I really, really would. I think
it's actually astronomy. They used to call it astronomy, not astrology.
Right.
And that's what all the ancients called it. Galileo, Newton, all these people that they say it weren't astrologers were. Even the great herbalist, Nicholas Culpeper, so many others. I mean, there's so many examples where it was used throughout history, in wars, in cities, in planning. And it's been carefully omitted. One of the interesting things, J.P. Morgan used to say, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And what's interesting is J.P. Morgan was the front man for the Rothschilds. And boy, they used it. I know.
Boy, did they use it. Yeah. Well, this is awesome, Joe. I can feel that Jupiter energy coming upon us, right? I can feel it. I truly, truly can. I can feel it. So, well, thank you, Jeff, so much. Thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the Jupiter energy that's coming to us, moving into Taurus. Enjoy it. Have a beautiful week ahead, and we'll see you next time on Astrology Today with Jeff Harman.